Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Rhonda Parker Taylor. And she is an avid author, but she's taken a twist to it. And so I want you to listen because and not only if you're like to write or you want to write, she's got a story about that, but she also has a twist that can help anybody. So Rhonda, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
I would love to. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited. Everybody out there that's listening, I want to say, let's make motherhood, life, and momentum kind of join together and become our new passion and becoming empowered individuals and not just defining us by the titles that society does. I am an entrepreneur. I was raised by entrepreneurs, but I also kind of thought that in my life. At first, I was out there trying to make my name in academics and got my doctorate, and that was my first challenge and ran a college campus. And then I found that as life hit, I needed to pull back, redefine myself like all of us do, especially when we're parents, and find the harmony, the hustle, and the heart, and put them all together to make sure that I was meeting not only my passion for others and building them, but also my passion for self. And I think that's where we forget sometimes. We forget the self, especially when you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're thinking about your business, your product, your employees. But where do you put self, family, etc. in that daily hustle? So I redefined my life in the middle of chaos. I call it dancing with the chaos. Pulled myself back after the loss of my adopted son, who was shot and killed at work. That was the same age group that I'd been working with in academics. And that was very challenging to go back day after day after day after day. And when I did that, I found that I thrived more helping others one-on-one, coaching, building my organization than I actually was in the academic setting that I thought I loved so much. So for me, navigating life is about always facing the challenges and the crossroads given to us. And we're as women especially, and men that are out there listening, you're probably going through some of the same stuff. The crossroads are the hardest to navigate.
Wow, that was a lot to unpack. Congratulations. You and I are kindred spirits in the fact that I used to run colleges as well before I moved into entrepreneurship. And what a journey, because I always thought it was going to be academics. And I thought I was going to be this college professor on a specific campus. And all my kids were going to go to that school, which quite frankly they are, but I'm not teaching there. And I got into entrepreneur and I love it because you get to impact other people's lives. But I am really sorry about the loss of your son. That is a hard thing. I can't imagine.
It is a hard thing. It's a life-changing thing. It changes your mindset. Obviously you grieve, and I know there's a lot of parents out there that may be experiencing similar types of loss, and maybe to illness, maybe violence, but in today's world it might have been. But really what I've learned from this is we are more balanced when we address and we claim the traumas in our lives, and we adapt ourselves emotionally to be able to problem solve again and become the most resilient person that we are. And I think that all of us can discover ourselves by looking at our traumas, our dramas, some self-inflicted, some others inflict on us, and moving past that to unlock our power as an entrepreneur.
I want to touch on the Crossroads because I know that that's your book. And right before this, a lady that's one of my very first clients that I worked with, and they ended up not ever buying a house, but they were some of the first people that I worked with when I got into the business. So it's been years. And recently, it was about 6 months ago, he was training for a half marathon and then he was diagnosed with cancer. And she's posted on Facebook significantly the whole journey downward. And I just found out he passed away yesterday. And So she posted like probably 3 weeks ago saying, hey, because her son's serving a mission. And so he came home like 2 weeks early so that he could spend Christmas with his dad. And her other son is also serving a mission. And he came home for a few weeks and then went back actually right after Christmas. And then just went downhill after that. It's like he was almost waiting for his sons to come home so he could say goodbye. And I've watched this journey because here's a person who has such a belief in faith and that she'll see him again. And it's very interesting because she could be so angry because it is so painful to watch. Like she asked everyone to go to the airport to welcome her son home. And so I showed up and I've given them their space. So it was actually a surprise when I showed up and I was shocked that he was even there. He was in a wheelchair. When I walked up to him and I said, hi, it's Charisse, because I didn't know how lucid he was. And he immediately, oh, Charisse, hi, I'm so glad to see you. And, I'm diagnosed with cancer and it's very easy to tell. And so we got talking for a little bit and I look at her and then I look at somebody else who a couple years ago, it was like weeping and wailing and just sobbing over her husband. And it's been several years and she still is sobbing over her husband. And it's very interesting the perspective people have on life. And when you talk about a crossroads, it's now the new year. And what are our crossroads? We each have a crossroad. And so talk to us a little more about what this book is about and what your message is.
Sure. So Crossroads was my first fiction novel. I'd been doing academic writing for years, and I really wanted to put into perspective that we all hit crossroads. Mm-hmm. And it's a crime novel. And you're going to say, what does crime novels having to do with crossroads? Well, you get everybody in a room that from all walks of life that have gone through all kinds of crossroads, and then they have to make a decision and go through this process, whether they want to or not. And so the main process in that is, what are these people like? What have they gone through? And I do a medical soap note on all of them and a DSM-5 analysis before I even get them in the room together. And I say, okay, this person's the workaholic. So her thing is she wants to get back to work. That's the main character. Dave, who is the prosecutor, he's dedicated to law and order and that structured conservatism that we know in life, and we've seen people that are completely dedicated in that methodology of their thought. And his crossroads is he's eating out of cardboard boxes, working all the time, doesn't have life fulfillment. And then you have Billy Knuckles, the co-defendant. He's dedicated to his friends. He's out of balance. He has no perspective of himself. And so he gets in a car with a person when he knows he shouldn't have gotten in the car. And now he's faced with, does he turn on his friend, or does he, and align himself with the state and put the person in prison the rest of his life? Or does he take the charge with him? So Crossroads is about all these people's different perspectives in life and the choices that they have to make in doing that, and how they make those decisions determines how resilient their life is going to be. So you have to look at resiliency as a dynamic process. And when you have to bounce back from a traumatic event, in this case, it was a trial of a 15-year-old girl that was killed, there's no horror in it at all. It's all about perspective. And then things start happening to the jurors. And you have to figure out why. Do you have the ability to thrive in chaos is kind of the question. And then, can you have stress adaptation, or are you going to crumble under stress? If you're going through a divorce, are you crumbling? If you're going through losses, I've lost both parents in my life, are you crumbling? Or do you have protective factors out there that help you, which is your connections to others? And so it kind of goes and pulls all these people together, and it's up to IPD to figure out what's happening, why it's happening. And then also, meanwhile, they're addressing all the emotions in the room, which are anger, fury, and envy. And in Proverbs, it says, Anger is cruel. Fury is overwhelming. But who can stand before jealousy? Envy makes the bones rot. So all three of those are there for the reader to, what life? Am I following my purpose? Am I one of these people that are unaligned with my purpose and following basically falsehoods of their lives and what they think that they should be based on their upbringing or their experiences?
Wow. How long have you been thinking of this concept before you wrote it?
Well, it kind of developed. I knew I wanted to do the crime novel, and I knew that I wanted it to be about the unequal way of the legal process. And then as I started developing the characters, and the only way I knew how to do it was the academic way, which is the soap note and the research way, because was not a literature major. I was a business major, and, with a doctorate. So I started doing that, and I realized that the emotions in the room, the emotional intelligence were driving the characters, and their behavior was being driven by their DSM-5 assessment that I'd done on them. So that created that secondary crime clue-based part of the novel, because what ends up happening is it's when we find our own purpose that things happen to us anyway. So as I did it, I thought, well, I have something unique here, I think. And I found a publisher that would read it. And they said, I think you should talk to Merrill Hemingway. I don't know Merrill Hemingway. She doesn't know me. Why would she care about a girl from Indiana that wrote a crime novel, right? And they said, no, she's all about life balance. And I think that she will really appreciate the character aspect of the book. And so I submitted it to him, and about 3 weeks later, after I wrote the query letter, she wrote back and said, yes, she'd like to include it in your book club. And she released a YouTube video. And in that, she talks about exactly what all of us go through every day. There's a moment in time that we all reach a crossroads. We have to decide which way we're going to go and where our lives are going to end up. And then she talks about her own personal experience with it. And then she said, we all have to decide one day and realize that even chocolate has an expiration date. All you listeners out there, think about that. Chocolate, one of the most favorite things we like, has an expiration date. Sometimes you have to make the changes.
And if not, they'll be made for you, and it might not be the way that you want.
Have control. Dare to be you. And that's the big, and be free to align yourself with who you are.
So did you self-publish it, or did you have a publisher?
It's a hybrid publishing company. And what they do is you come up with an agreement of what program part you want to do on yourself, what part they're going to do, and then they help you meet the goals that you guys set. And then they do a mentorship. It's owned by J.J. Hibbert, and it's who's like one of Kevin Harrington's proteges or people that work with him. And he has a model that you can kind of pick what's best for you. For me, with me being an entrepreneur, I knew that I didn't have the time to figure out how do you do a barcode, how do you do certain aspects. So I wanted them to do the publishing part of it, the distribution part of it, and then they helped me create the brand that I needed for me. And it's successful so far. So failure is not the end of anything, because I had been rejected before, and then I found a publisher, a traditional one, and it took 2 years, and then they pulled the deal at the end.
Are you serious?
Yes. So it was actually the beginning. It was the second chance for me, because had I gone the traditional route, I don't know if it would have gotten the best-selling status and stuff, because we didn't have a plan in place other than getting it out.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
You've taken it one step further, though. So you're an author and you got that published, but now you've taken it even further. It's not just a novel, right? So what else have you done?
So what happens next is, since Crossroads is all about the life balance model, I have a self-help book for all those people that identify as this. It's called The Journey to Life Balance, and it works you through the 13 dimensions, not just career and home. What are you doing for your spirituality? What are you doing for your emotions? What are you doing for your integrity? What are you doing for your family? And it brings it all together and says, let's balance this. Let's set goals. Let's do everything you normally do for a career. Let's do it for your life.
I like that.
And then when you do that, what ends up happening is you can realign yourself with your purpose. I find every time I did it, I've been doing it since my 20s. And then I'm like, why am I not doing something with it? I've gotten all these self-help books together and started doing all this work. And I'm like, we need one that just tells us how to get us realigned. And what do I really enjoy? I found out that we're always veering off to some other purpose. And then we have to bring ourselves back to what we really find joy in.
Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you.
So let's dive into it just a little. How can individuals take what they want in their head and align it with their core values?
So the first thing is I do what they call in psychology and sociology and social work as the miracle question. Close your eyes, picture your perfect life. Describe it, shop for it in your mind, get it all out there and for a visualization of it. And I found that we typically first go to, I went to a house with 18 bedrooms, 6 dining rooms, 10 pools. And then you're realizing that's really not your purpose. That's not who you are. And so you start modeling it by what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. What does it really look like? Put your family really in it. You're not throwing them away. This isn't the single lives of the 20s. Mm-hmm. And you put everything in there. And then after you visualize it, you have to evaluate what you're really doing. What is it in your life that you're doing that's getting you to that vision? And you find most of the time when you look at the different characteristics of what you're doing, most of the time you may sit down and say, well, I'm balanced. I have 30% home, 30% this, 30% sleep. And then you realize, wait a minute, but the activities that I'm doing in those areas don't hit all the dimensions. So maybe you're only in physical health in your practices because you're really out at the gym 3 hours a day and you're hitting it hard, you're working, but then you're not doing anything for your spiritual growth, or maybe you're not doing something for your social connections with your family.
Yeah.
And so then you go through and you set these goals and you set a calendar for yourself to make sure that you get through all 13 dimensions.
So do you recommend just working on one or two at the beginning and not being overwhelmed, or do you work on all 13 at the same time?
We work through them one of them at a time, at the goal, but then your calendar, you do it incrementally throughout the whole 3-5 year process. So for instance, you've set your goals for your family and you're like, okay, well, I can't afford to go on a vacation every day. So then you're saying, okay, when was the last time I wrote a personal note to my loved one? When was the last time I made their special meal? And you schedule certain things in that are maybe no cost, some that are developmental together, sitting down and talking about some of those goals. Some are maybe romantic aspects of your life that you're maybe not making the right time for. And you put those in, and it's very easy to put blueberries in your life for your health. And that costs you no time.
Yeah.
And it still brings pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So I've heard of like up to 8 dimensions. Mm-hmm. Can you list the 13?
I sure can.
I know.
For my thought. Okay. So you have your physical, you have your mental, you have your intrapersonal skills, you have your interpersonal skills. So Intra would be like self-awareness, self-regard. Inter would be like your social connections. You have your integrity. Sometimes we forget that integrity and knowing your own values and knowing how to develop them, it's important because it's too late once you have to make the decision, because you're going to make the wrong decision if you don't already, you can go back to like the Enron situation. Most of those people did not expect that they were going to break the law and bankrupt the company and the people that were investors when they started making decisions. They went down the road and got themselves there, right? So you have your integrity. Then you also have your financial. What are you doing to get ahead, to plan for the future, not just pay your bills and survive, but how are you planning that? It may be first to get you in line where you're not behind on everything, but you have to set those goals on your financial goals. Then you have to look at, your connections that are not just your work connections, but also your family connections. I kind of separate those two because those are two different roles in your life that you have to do. Then you have your spiritual. What are you doing? And I'm not talking religion, because religion sometimes gets in the way of your actual spiritual connection with what you believe and how you want to process life. You have to know what you believe, do the work to figure it out spiritually, and then let your body actually engross it and feel it in your mind, so that when you're in that situation that requires you to pull that resource, because that's one of your most resilient resources, you have it already there for you. You've got that network. Then, of course, you have your career. Your career is, a big part of your life. What are those goals? What is your purpose? What makes you happy? Are you in the right field? All of these questions are things you need to ask yourself. And then what do you have to do to get the right skills if you need to? So what is your intellectual growth, which is the next one? Are you providing podcasts? Like, podcasts are a great way for listeners to put intellectual growth in their day without requiring, I have to take a class. Mm-hmm. All of you out there that are entrepreneurs, think of all the topics that you have heard from this podcast. If you haven't shared it yet or liked it or followed it, this is a quick, easy way for you to get information from experts daily, weekly, monthly from the different podcasts that are out there. See, that's the 10th one. Then you have to really realize that it's just not all about you. What is the world? What is your world perspective, world view? And how are you going to approach that for the future? My dad used to always say, as an entrepreneur himself, you can tell the economy and what's going on in the economy by what trucks are on the road. And that sounds crazy, but it's true. Go on the highway, look at the trucks. Are they all Walmart trucks? Are they agricultural trucks? Are they military trucks? Are there a few, are they on strike and they're trying to make us all go slow? That tells you a lot about the economy of the world. And of course, I was a little sassy. And I would tell him that you can tell someone's worldview by how they treat the world and the animals. So what is your worldview? Mm-hmm. Are you forgetting that the least amongst us are important? Mm-hmm. Are you forgetting that it is a dog-eat-dog world out there? Because that's a world perspective too. I sometimes can put a naive face and go facing the world and look for all the good, but then I forget that there are predators amongst us. And then all I got to do is look outside and see the animals and watch the hawks groom the other little animals by eating with them at the table to realize that, wait a minute, we all are in situations where we could be preyed on. So you have to look at the worldview and say, oh my goodness, I need to put more effort into X. And then what about your home? We live in our home. These are our castles. I'm not saying spend money on it, but make it the best place that makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Or when you open the blinds and you look outside, you say, oh, this is what I want to see. Now, even in an apartment, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So it's all of, I think I got all 13, but I may have only got 12.
That is such good advice. What I love is that you've really thought it through and you've taken the time so that you can help other people. If our listeners wanted to find you or get a hold of you, how would they do that?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is my website, rhondaparkertaylor.com. That has all my social medias. All of my social media is rhondaparkertaylor.com also, or a version of it based on whichever one it is. I'm on all the major ones, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. But I'd love to have people correspond and just talk about these issues that are important. And it's not about just empowering ourselves with connections, because, we can say, oh, I can help you, but it's really strengthening and sharing our experience. Mm-hmm. When we can build that bridge, we're creating a bridge from pain to purpose. Or some people may not have had a lot of pain, just haven't hit that season in their life. They will eventually, where they life hits, because we all hit it eventually. We like to think that our path has been more traumatic and more drama driven than the next, but really we all hit it eventually. And when we do that, we heal together, we grow together, and we adapt together. And that's what the beauty of it is.
Thank you so much. So I have one last question for you. Mm-hmm. Well, I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a park bench. And this 9-month pregnant lady walks up to you. This is her first time being a mom. And you look at her and you just, like, all of the years pass before you with your children from birth to adult. And I want you to think of one piece of advice you would give her as you guys start talking. And she's like, what's one piece of advice you would give me? What would it be?
I would tell her to enjoy every year, because you don't know that life is going to be with you or you with them. Train and develop them, not only in the academic process, because that schools should be doing that, but in the life skills part of it. They don't have the home ec like they used to. They don't have the ability to show people how to be resilient and thrive like we used to. Our generation had parents that said things that maybe we thought were mean, but it was basically pushed us back up on the horse and got us back out there. Now we coddle kids a lot. Don't be a helicopter parent where you're hovering over them, preventing them from ever getting a boo-boo, because when you do that, you're restricting their ability to thrive. Find comfort in their successes and their failures, and help them learn to deal with the failures, because it's through those failures and experiences that they learn how to build and create a world that's adaptable to what the world provides them.
I love that. And I so agree. A phrase that I use a lot is buck up, buttercup.
Yes.
With my kids, because woe is me all the time. I get it. But we all have that, and that's what makes us stronger. So Rhonda, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. So any other last minute tidbits that you would like to say to the listeners?
The only thing I would say to all those entrepreneurs out there, because not everybody is an entrepreneur out there, is I'd like you to then just realize that if it's meant to be, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to bring people along that aren't the right fit, aren't the right purpose, aren't aligned with our own mission. So if it's meant to be, it's up to us to fulfill that and us to create the mission and the vision. It's not going to happen if we try to rely on others to create that.
I 100% agree with you. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So mompreneurs, Rhonda, like I said, go get her book, first of all, Crossroads. And I'm actually excited to really read it and to talk about where are you in life. And I think that now is a perfect opportunity. It's never too late, obviously, but with the new year coming, that it's time to look at your life and what do you want to accomplish this year. Studies have shown that fewer people are making goals and setting goals anymore because they don't end up achieving them. And so it's not a goal as much as a life change and where you want to go, a direction in your life. So get her book, and then the book that's coming out this month as well, because life is meant to be lived, and go after what you want. Don't wait for it to come to you. So go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Sharice Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Sharice Walker.